Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another best of 3 here. Today we have a Rogue versus Neeb played in the most recent Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. So in the top right we do have our Red Zerg player Rogue. In the bottom left we have Neeb, who's sending out his first worker here, obviously, as he should, like every good boy will, trying to block that opponent's nexus. And at the same time, of course, getting that pylon on the low ground, just preparing for any type of one gate expand, which is the most common opener out of Protoss and has been the most common opener out of Protoss for a very, very long time. And as I say that, yep, one gate expand is indeed going to be what Neeb selects here. Ooh, what was this? Was this a 15 hatch? That indeed was a 15 hatch. So with that 15 hatch on some of the larger maps, it does allow you to get that hatchery down before the probe truly arrives and is there to block. This is kind of frustrating because sending out the probe early for Protoss is no cheap endeavor. It costs you, well, depending what you compare it to, but if you would compare it to something as simple as a gate scout, it's still going to cost you 50 to 60 minerals, and that's kind of a big deal. 50 to 60 minerals in an early game. It's like a full probe that you can build later on. It's a delay on your third nexus, etc, etc. But yeah, Neeb just going to be opening up here with a Nexus first. I do like that 15 hatch type of play on maps like Glittering Ash. Maybe Pride of Altaris if you're planning on taking the natural base as a Zerg player. But very often there people kind of play pool first into some type of hatch on the gold base, or just straight up a hatch first on the gold. Like there's so many options on that map. So yeah, it tends to play out a little bit different. But even on a map like 2K Atmospheres, you know, going for that 15 hatch has a lot of potential, and it definitely can work out for you. See the second pylon go down for our American Protoss player. And we'll have to wait and see what the Rogue exactly is going to be doing here. So this probe has spotted everything it needs to. Sees the timing of the gas, sees the lack of speed starting so far, and can kind of, from there on out, figure out what the speed timing should be. You know, it's like, okay, starting at around 215. At 79 seconds and we should be absolutely fine. It's about a minute and 19 seconds, 79 seconds. It's very difficult for me to visualize actual seconds on a clock. So like 79 seconds, I always just split it in a minute and then seconds. Makes it a lot easier. Still pisses me off that instead of using just like tens or hundreds, that for whatever reason time is with like 60s. It's just very, very difficult. Just wish a second was, I guess, slightly faster and we'd have 100 of them in a minute. It would make life so much easier for counting. I remember when I was young, it always pissed me off. But no, I guess can't help it anymore. I bet there's some mechanical reason for why the minute is made out of 60. But I don't actually know why. I'll Google that after this game. This is a best of 3. I'll give you guys your cool facts in game number 2 here. As the first Void Ray is on the way already. Oh, look at this. We have something tasty going on here. Look at that. What are you doing, Neeb? A fast third gas. So this has a very similar start. Okay, let me try that sentence again. This has the same amount of workers as you would have in 3 per gas, right? So you're still using 6 workers for gas mining. But because of how gas mining works in StarCraft 2, this actually is more efficient. However, because you're getting a third assimilator before a nexus, this could delay your nexus a little bit. And the reason why this is more efficient is because the third worker has a small break. You see that? The worker is just standing still for a bit. I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just kind of imagine this. Imagine 3 workers together mine 100% of the gas income that is happening at this one assimilator. Not all workers contribute as much to that as one another. So worker 1 and 2 are already at perhaps 72% capacity of this assimilator, and the third worker only adds another 28% to get to that, you know, to that 100. I don't quite know what percentage is actually correct, but it is definitely noticeable. Now, you could say, well, then in that case, it just makes sense to always take 4 gas ASAP. That's not entirely true, because don't forget, every single time you get a mineral building, it delays your third base a bit. It perhaps delays your third pylon or your fourth pylon as well. So there are trade-offs to be made here, and Neeb believes that's a worthwhile trade-off. I think I might actually agree with him. I think it's a trade-off that not enough people make and not enough people are aware of. There is one problem with it, and that is in case of Twilight build follow-ups from a Stargate, is you really can't afford to lose any minerals with that type of opener. Because your gateway timing needs to be very tight after that initial Void Ray plus Oracle. So I do really empathize here with people not doing it, but you could also say, hey, why? If it's only for a Twilight Council opener, why do you just not get a third gas with a Twilight opener? But if your opponent scowls that you're not getting a third gas, and you always do it usually, then, you know, they'll be like, oh, I guess this is a Twilight opener. So you always need to be mixing it up. But I think a lot of people, rather than having it be a conscious decision of not playing an opener like this, actually are not aware, or they don't want to be bothered with it, and they don't really think about it. Neeb is one of those players that thinks very deeply about his build orders, as he sacrifices 2 adepts to get 3 drones. That really is just an even trade. Fleet Beacon as well as a Twilight Council on the way here. This is a fast Fleet Beacon, by the way. I really do enjoy this build order that Neeb is playing. Very fast gases as well on this third base. This fourth base is ridiculously fast. Look how greedy this is. He's really playing this like it's a rush to carriers. And honestly, for Neeb, it is a rush to carriers. These carriers are going to be popping out at the 7-minute mark. He is chrono boosting them, and there's no +1 yet. Usually when you're preparing for some type of carrier push, I think chronoing the initial 2 carriers just doesn't make that much sense, because often you don't have the money to start carrier 3 and 4 immediately anyway. You need to be getting charged, you need to be getting +1, you perhaps want to get a Templar Archives and continue Disruptor production. So you see that Neeb actually right now is lacking gas to produce carrier 3 and 4, which is once again why it just doesn't make so much sense to me to chrono these first 2. I mean, if you have 5 chronos to spend, it would be way better to use all 5 of these chronos on the second batch of carriers, rather than spending them on the first batch of carriers and then having 20 seconds in which the Stargates are idle. It just doesn't make much sense. We actually see here that the follow-up is going to be Void Rays rather than carriers, so this adds a little bit of safety in the case of any type of Corruptor all-in, which is honestly kind of unlikely to be played on a map like this. Of course, it's always a possibility that someone opens up with a couple of Corruptors. This is Gravitic Drive, you know? Yeah. It's very funny. I would not be able to describe the difference between Gravitic Drive and whatever the Observer Speed is called, but whenever I see it on the production tab, I always know which one it is. But I can't imagine either of these 2 things. I just know it when I see it. Which sounds a bit stupid, but I swear I do know my stuff. Big Zealot Warp in here will be able to defend. There's no battery beam here, actually it's kind of annoying. It's still going to be fine because there's not that many units, but this could have been potentially bad. These Disruptors getting some big shots here. Neural Parasite not done yet. My good friend Rogue looks pretty darn dead here. He has absolutely nothing. I've been focusing so much on Neeb's build order that I hadn't really realized that Rogue wasn't really getting any units. This push is hitting hard. 2 carriers, a lot of ground units. These 2 Disruptors definitely helping out as well. Microbial Shroud now gets used. We just have more and more Zealots being warped in. Disruptor shot is going to hit, and it's going to hit big. I think that hit 3 Queens at least. Another Disruptor shot will connect here, and I mean, there's just no more energy on these Infestors. The carriers are completely empty at this point, but this looks very good for Neeb, and this doesn't just look good. This game is freaking over. It's 5 Queens against an air army and a ground army. GG gets called. Neeb wins game number 1 within 9 minutes. What a cool build order this was out of Neeb, honestly. Hitting really fast. If you compare this to some of the other people that try to hit these timings, this was very fast. And I think a large part of that is the faster gases on the third base and the extremely quick gas in the natural as well. Just allows you to tech into a lot of different things at once. Like this is a Robo Bay that has been thrown down, Templar Archives, Double Stargate, Fleet Beacon. We have these upgrades as well. It's a lot of gas. And truly the only limiting factors with these types of pushes is just always going to be gas. And Neeb kind of negating that by getting very early extra gas. Now of course that makes him more vulnerable early on. But if you do manage to hit that timing, that's going to be real strong. 1-0 for Neeb, and we'll be heading in game number 2. Game number 2 here on Pride of Altaris, as we have Neeb marching across the map, going for some type of block once again. Low ground wall here with the pylon, as it could still be a gold base as well here. We could be looking at double gold bases, honestly. It's not super uncommon on a map like this, as we do indeed have this first drone marching across the map. These two bad boys will kiss on the ramp, or perhaps they will barely miss one another. Ah, sad. This drone will just start heading towards the gold base. We'll throw down that gold. There's nothing Neeb can do about it. Neeb, as a response, actually not opening up here with a gate first. I think this is a Nexus first on the gold. And Rogue is going to try to block that. Well, Rogue wants to block a gate into Nexus on the gold expand. But because Neeb opens this up with an 18 Nexus, that's just not going to be possible. Just need to send a second worker over pretty quickly here. I think that might just be too late. Rogue's going to be a bit pissed off by this. Curious to see if he's going to do anything with it. Like, is he going to continue scouting? Maybe throw down a hatchery somewhere on the map? These are all real possibilities. But I would be a little bit surprised. Double gate openers, of course, can be very strong here. You have a lot of money, and getting some extra adepts in the early game is quite helpful. The question that I have for Neeb is, what will the follow-up be? I mean, you could be looking at a Stargate, could be looking at a Robo. You have some nice positions here. So like with a pylon and a Robo, you can kind of wall off one side. With like a battery in the mineral line, you're kind of safe here. It's going to be a second gateway. Now this allows for two things. One, it allows for pressure onto your opponent, and it also grants you a certain amount of safety, which is just super useful. So we'll see the Cybercore go down here. Whoop. Oh, it's a full wall. Alright. I actually really do like that. So you might be wondering, well, oh, the extractor got taken? I'm not quite sure what I think about that. I guess it's better than not getting the... Well, actually, extractor stealing against Nexus first isn't super useful, because there's always going to just be a Nexus finishing soon. So, although it's annoying, like, it's not actually going to cut too much into the gas count, in my opinion. Honestly, it really doesn't. A couple of links on the way here. So Rogue is preparing for the first two adepts to show up. We'll need to see a quick transfer into this gas, actually. I think Neeb is playing this rather slow. Ooh, okay, that's the first larva pop that just finished there. There's no third base yet either. Neeb needs to start defending this base pretty quickly from here on out. His battery is actually a little bit late as well. I think that is later than it should have been. And these two adepts are marching over towards the gold base right now. There's no wall on the left side. This second gas isn't really mining either. It's just a single worker. Okay, a robo facility gets thrown down here. Second pylon. Yeah, second pylon does get built here. These adepts are looking for some damage, or well, Neeb wants to get damage with him. I don't think he should be, because he's currently getting link flooded. Neeb completely unaware of this though. He's going to be shading forward. Might just end up losing these two adepts for free. Needs to start moving back. Sees a lot of drones here. That's actually frustrating, because he much rather wouldn't have seen the drones. This is some quick micro here. Battery does get surrounded, but not quite good enough. I think this battery is going to fall. Another battery gets built. These probes, some hold position micro is being utilized here out of Neeb. These two adepts here on the top side could be in a little bit of danger. I love this shade back into the mineral line. That's definitely the correct play. Good control on these defensive probe maneuvers. Hold position, hold position. Oh, I love this little move here. Can we please defend our battery? Oh, gets cancelled here. Very keen on cancelling that battery quickly. This is a good position, but all of these workers are going to fall. Don't forget that Rogue is still mining, so currently Rogue is ahead in that income. Double battery coming out right now. How far are we away from Warp Gate finishing? Well, it's pretty darn close. Two more adepts into a very unfortunate position, actually, finding themselves kind of getting semi-surrounded here, as more cancels on these batteries are not going to be helping Neeb out. Once all these pylons die, though, that's when Neeb truly starts being in trouble. These adepts will finish up. 4 adepts are here. Another pylon needs to be thrown down. If this is immortal finish, I actually see some potential here for our American player. What is that recall? Is that more workers? I think that might be more workers, yeah. I don't completely mind that, to be honest. Gonna need an adept being built here behind this. Double adepts, but preferably even. And now Neeb needs to make a decision. He's like, hey, do I go defend this? No. As Rogue immediately switches gear. So double adept warp enforced in that position in the natural, or well, in the regular natural base. Gold still under heavy fire though, and there's so many links there. I actually believe that Neeb is It's kind of dead. This position is cute, but the Immortal isn't even firing. It's just being pushed into the links. The Adepts are like, you have a big barrier, you have a big shield, my friend. You tank some of that damage. And the Immortal desperately trying to push back into this little hole. Yeah, this is very bad. GG gets called. The Rogue takes game number 2 here with a quick Ling Flood. And we'll tie up the series 1-1. Game number 3 is over here on 2K Atmospheres. A very large map. We've been playing some odd maps, no? Pride of Altaris. I guess Neeb had a decent plan on that. It just didn't work out. The fact that glittering was in there surprises me as well. And it makes me curious as to what had actually been vetoed by both of these players. I can imagine Neeb vetoing perhaps Berlingrad and Curious Minds. And then Rogue vetoing what, Blackburn and Hardwire? Very confusing why Hardwire had to be vetoed here though. Maybe Rogue was the one that vetoed Berlingrad or Curious Minds. It's also possible. Some Zergs don't feel too comfortable on these smaller maps. It is viable that it's a viable thought that Rogue perhaps does not like them. Rogue's a player that likes the big picture stuff. He also likes all inning apparently, as he just Ling flooded his opponent. And honestly, not too much that Neeb could have done a whole lot better. So I'm thinking about the last game. I think an initial surround on the battery is just huge. The fact that he didn't scout the lack of a third base, didn't really spot the links moving out either. Like all of these things are so important against Ling floods, and it can just be really, really tricky to get anything done. Yes, Rogue is one of these players that sometimes just has a day where he Ling floods like 3-4 times, and it's like, alright, day's over, I won everything, see you guys tomorrow. There was obviously that one Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, I think it was 2020, in which he just Ling flooded and Baneling busted Zest a couple of times. That was not okay, but he did it anyway. He doesn't really care about my opinion. This spawning pool is about 90% complete. Well, not really, more like 75% complete. We'll finish up soon. Some gas being mined, but it's hard to say what this kind of does with Neeb, or with Neeb's mental in this case. Like, well, how is he going to be feeling about this, you know? Is he just going to continue where he left off in that game number 1? Is he going to be playing a lot more safe this time around? Just have a lot of questions about what his actual plans are. Stalker first out of Neeb. Okay, this is a very rare build order, especially without that warp gate research. This is something we don't actually see. Like, we actually just don't see that at all. So a couple of drones being transferred over right now. Next is on the way. That third gas, once again. So, Neeb really keen on that third gas, of course. As he was last time around. Double chrono as well. He's getting some nice eco going. I do like this setup, don't get me wrong. But that Stalker first is a very confusing part of this entire opener. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to do, the fast Stalker. You're obviously not going to be killing that Overlord. You'll still need a Void Ray for that. So then you're just limiting your own scouting ability, it kind of feels like. That is confusing. You have 8 more links on the way. It seems like Rogue has got the link flooding taste in his mouth, and he says, I want more of that taste in my mouth. 22 links on the way, actually. Also starts putting a couple of workers. Okay. I don't mind this. This is a build that is generally considered good against Glaive Adept openers. But I guess in the case of delaying a warp gate, it can also be quite beneficial. Oh my god. Did he just spot this? I think he just barely managed to almost spot it in a way. Okay, now he should know. He definitely should realize that something weird is going on. Drones show up. Void Ray can help here in the defense. Couple of pylons for the rewall. Probes start moving forward. Now trying to get that block. The Void Ray is just attacking the Overlord. It's nice to supply block your opponent, but I do believe there are more pressing issues right at this moment. And honestly, Neeb is just kind of dead here. Doesn't have an Adept anymore as it died middle of the map. The Stalker has fallen. And Neeb with a very, sad build order here, for him at least. Stalker first into Adept, losing the Adept mid-map. It's just not going to work out. Oracle now pops out. There are 3 gases, 14 workers remain. But even if Neeb doesn't lose a single worker anymore at this point, which is unlikely given there's still freaking 20 links in the base, even at that point I think Rogue is already very far ahead, and now more workers are going to end up falling. 10, 11, 10. GG gets called. Rogue wins this series 2-1. And, well, basically 2 5-minute games, loses a 9-minute game. Very short series. Do like some of the openers that Neeb had though. I'm going to be experimenting a bit with that as well. That faster third. Yes, again, love the Nexus first on the gold, but it wasn't good enough to beat the Link Floods of Mr. Rogue here. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of y'all next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.